Hey everyone, welcome. Today we are going to tackle one of Colorado's most iconic adventures, climbing a 14,000-foot peak. And we're zeroing in on a mountain that's on pretty much every beginner's list, Mount Bierstadt. So, what does it really take to stand on top of this giant? Let's get into it. Colorado is home to this incredible number of mountains that tower over 14,000 feet. We call them 14ers, and they are a huge draw for hikers and adventurers from all over. They promise these absolutely breathtaking views and an amazing sense of accomplishment. But here's the thing, getting to the top is a way bigger challenge than most people think. So if you ask around for a recommendation for a first 14er, you're almost guaranteed to hear Mount Bierstadt. It's got this reputation for being one of the easiest. But what does easy actually mean when you're hiking more than 2 miles above sea level? That's exactly what we're here to unpack.
Okay, so just so we're all on the same page, what exactly is a 14er? Well, it's any mountain that tops out at 14,000 feet or higher. And get this, Colorado has 58 of these giants. It creates this unique and seriously challenging playground for anyone who loves the mountains. Now, before we even talk about the trail itself, we have to talk about the biggest hurdle, the one you can't even see, the altitude. The air is just thinner up there, and it can affect anyone. It doesn't matter how physically fit you are. This isn't just a tough workout, it's a real physiological challenge. And that brings us to something called acute mountain sickness, or AMS. The International Society of Travel Medicine says it can hit you anytime you're above about 8,000 feet. And here's the part that really surprises people. Their research shows that being in great shape, being a total gym rat, does not reduce your risk at all. The symptoms of AMS can be anything from just a nagging headache and feeling wiped out to more serious stuff like nausea and dizziness. Listen, the most important thing to remember is super simple. If you start feeling unwell on the mountain, do not go any higher. Just turn around. Going down is the best and really the only medicine. So how do you fight back? Well, it's all about preparation. You gotta ascend gradually if you can, stay incredibly hydrated. Drink a ton of water, skip the alcohol, and just take it easy for a day or two to let your body acclimate. And you know what? It's always a smart move to chat with your doctor before a big high-altitude trip. All right, beyond getting your body ready for the altitude, you absolutely need the right gear. This is the classic 10 essentials list, and you should think of it less as a suggestion and more as the bare minimum you need to carry for your own safety. The weather in the Rockies can change in the blink of an eye, and you have to be ready for absolutely anything. Okay, let's switch gears to logistics. You've prepped your body, you've packed your bag, now you've got to actually get to the mountain. And for most hikers, this part of the journey starts in the dark, long before the sun even thinks about coming up. If you want to understand just how insanely popular this mountain is, just think about this. 4 a.m. That's right. That's often when the parking lot is completely full on a summer weekend. Even on a weekday, it can be totally packed by 5:30. This is not a hike you can just decide to do on a whim at 10 in the morning. Now, the good news is the road to the trailhead, Guanella Pass, it's a paved, scenic byway, so pretty much any car can make it. The bad news? Parking is very strictly enforced. You have to park in the designated lots. If you try to park on the side of the road, you're risking an $87.50 fine, and maybe even getting towed. They have to keep that road clear for emergency vehicles, so they don't mess around. Now, let's cover a couple of really critical rules. Mount Bierstadt is in the Mount Evans Wilderness area, and they have their own specific regulations. So if you're bringing your furry best friend, they must be on a handheld leash at all times. No exceptions. Seriously. And hey, if you're hiking with a big crew, you need to know this number. The group size is limited to a maximum of 15 people. This rule is there to protect the super fragile alpine environment and, honestly, to make sure everyone has a better time on the trail.
All right, you did it. You parked, you're all geared up, and you're standing at the trailhead. It's time to climb. Let's talk about how this hike builds from what feels like a gentle walk into a serious high-altitude challenge.
So the hike starts, well, it's kind of deceptive. As one blogger put it, the first mile actually goes downhill toward a creek crossing. It feels like a really pleasant warm-up, but don't let it fool you, because what goes down has to come back up at the very end of your day. Okay, after you cross that creek, the real work starts. From there, you will gain 2,800 vertical feet in just 2.6 miles. I mean, that is a relentless uphill grind where every single step is a battle against gravity and that thin mountain air. This is where the altitude really starts talking to you. As you get closer to the summit, the trail, well, it changes. Experienced hikers use a rating system for the terrain, and the last section of Bierstadt is rated Class 2. Now, if you're a beginner, that term might not mean a whole lot, but it's a really important distinction to understand.
So what on earth does Class 2 actually mean? It basically means the trail disappears. You're not just walking anymore, you're going to be picking your way through a field of boulders, and you'll definitely be using your hands for balance and to pull yourself up. It's not technical rock climbing or anything, but it is a scramble that requires your full attention. So you push through that final scramble and you made it. You're on top. The view is your reward. But you have to remember, reaching the summit is only halfway. The journey back down is just as important, and it requires just as much focus. Let's just put this whole day into perspective with some numbers. You start at over 11,600 feet, you climb to just over 14,000 feet, and you cover more than 7 miles round trip. That is a massive undertaking, and that's before you even think about the thin air. This timeline here gives you a really realistic idea of the day. A 4:30 a.m. arrival, hitting the summit around 9:30, and getting back to the car in the early afternoon. The whole thing can easily take 6 to 8 hours. And that super early start isn't just about parking. It's to get you up and off the summit before noon. Because afternoon thunderstorms in the Rockies are no joke. They can build with scary speed, and an exposed summit is the absolute last place you want to be when lightning is around.
So let's circle all the way back to our original question. We've looked at all the challenges, from the altitude and that crazy early start to the physical climb itself. So what's the final verdict on Mount Bierstadt?
So is the hike easy? Well, in some ways, yeah. The road to get there is paved, the trail is pretty clear and easy to follow, and there's no technical climbing. But a successful, and more importantly, a safe climb depends entirely on being prepared. That means you respect the risk of altitude sickness, you start before sunrise to avoid storms, you're ready for that huge elevation gain, and you've packed for any and all weather conditions.
So in the end, yeah, Bierstadt might be one of the more accessible 14ers, but let's be really clear. No 14er is truly easy. They all demand respect, they demand fitness, and they demand careful preparation. So the real question isn't whether the mountain is easy, it's whether you're prepared for the challenge it presents.